Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by TheLines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast, and we are looking at player props here on Monday to kick off the work week with you guys. Also have best bets up in a separate episode, so make sure you are subscribed to that page. Continue to follow along all season with us as we bring both episodes to you each and every weekday moving forward. Pretty good run so far in the player props, Nate. I think we still have a little bit of a slide upwards, if you will. We're going to hit a ramp at some point here and have a couple sweeps. But for now, we'll keep staying above water. Nice plus units on the season. Let's jump right into your first player prop for Monday.
Yeah, I mean, Josh is off to a great start, in particular on the best bets. In the player props. And you can find, he gives out a few extra on his personal channel, Land Your Bets. Just a little quick plug there if you're looking for stuff right up to game time. But yes, here looking at this on Monday morning, I like Evan Mobley to continue his hot start. 26.5 PRA seems a little low for me, and the odds are fine, -110. I mean, it's a hot start against weak opponents, say what you will, averaging the incredible numbers, 18, 9.3, 3.3, and 4.3 stocks. But he's only played 30 minutes a game, right, against those teams, and I would expect him to be more in the 35 to 38 range against a big Knicks team, and a team that he started to kind of figure out how to play against, averaged in his last two, 13.5 points, 10.5 rebounds, 5.5 assists. His numbers against Cat are skewed by the fact that Rudy Gobert is lurking there on the back line, and now Cat is forced to play the five, right? And I don't think this Knicks interior D is going to be as good as we've seen in years past. I mean, with OG at the four, Mobley has averaged 14.4 on 50% shooting his last five against OG when he was on the Raptors. But I mean, more so, this is about like trusting Kenny Atkinson to kind of unlock this dude, right? I mean, just such a better offense we've seen from the Cavs. Granted, again, against weak opponents through 3 games, but you got to look at the signs here is that Evan Mobley, who was at a lot of times kind of just overlooked in the Bickerstaff offense as Garland and Mitchell traded terms, he's really been kind of super involved in terms of what I'm talking about with like high-low stuff, getting the ball as a decision maker, right? Kind of the athletic Draymond Green that he could be with after Atkinson spent so much time with that. It's like, just give him the ball in the short roll, and this dude's a problem. Like, especially if you don't have great rim protection, which the Knicks do not necessarily with Cat at the five again. And this offense is just clicking. I mean, they're number 1 in field goals, 7th in total assists. A small sample, bad opponents. I will keep repeating it, but Evan Mobley is getting stats. Like, I mean, he could get this on points and rebounds. So I just think it's too low right now, the stat bundle.
Yeah. I'm with backing Evan Mobley this season. I do think it's going to work, but I think for him to reach his ceiling, I mean, they're going to have to probably split up he and Allen at some point. Whatever. That's not the point here. I would say, weak opponents, fine, but I still think the focal point that he's going to be within the offense, the encouragement to shoot and all that is something to back, reasons to back Evan Mobley for sure. My first player prop here for Monday Night Nate, I'm going to go with Tyrese Halliburton. And the first thing that stood out to me was 6.5 assists. This man had like 14.5 assist lines last year. What is going on? Well, he's just not diming. I don't have a better explanation, even after looking into things as much as I could. He doesn't have potential assists coming his way. But I think the better play here against Orlando is to zag a little bit on what would be commonplace thinking and take an over on his points. He hasn't been taking quite as many shots, but I do think last game when they lost yesterday to the 76, when they lost to the Fighting Tyrese Maxeys yesterday, who dropped 42 on him in the second, most of it in the second half. That was in. So that's going to be what you see from Tyrese moving forward. He was very consistent in that game yesterday. He took the same amount of shots basically in both halves. He was trying to get others involved, but he's still at like 8 potential assists per game for a man that was averaging 10 or even 11 at points in the season last year. So I do think there's something to the idea that like they don't want to put as much stress on him, at least not early, and maybe not until the playoffs in terms of it's not the amount of minutes. He's playing 35, 36 minutes if they're in the game, which they weren't against the Knicks. So he played fewer, but in the games they're in, he's playing most of the game. And I just think they're not necessarily trying to put, 19 to 21 shots on his, onto his sort of on his body essentially at this point in the year. But I still think the points at about 15 to 16 shots. Look, he took 18 shots in 2 different games so far this season. The Knicks game was a blowout, so he didn't obviously. And versus Orlando, it was the same thing last year. When we talk about Orlando, We talk about guards up top who are going to run the pick and roll, have the ball in their hands, can shoot off the dribble and drive and create for their teammates. They're better scorers versus Orlando. They're not better passers. Orlando's not going to double down on you. They're just going to put a ton of ball pressure with three really, really, really good individual defenders on the wing out there against you. And they're just going to make you go around them if you can. And Tyrese probably will be able to. He'll be doing his best to stay out of the half-court offense, I would imagine, and let the Magic get set on defense, as their half-court defense is one of the best in the leagues, if not the best, honestly, at this point. So OKC was pretty nasty too, but either way, this is going to be a tougher matchup for Dimes for him. I wanted to fade the assist. It's at 6.5 because the books are like, well, if he's not even going to get more than 8 potential assists, we can't really reasonably inflate his assist line anymore. So we'll just wait for him to have bigger assist games. But the points are something I'm not worried about because the potential assists might not be there, but the field goal attempts are there. And I think last game was a nice little sort of come into his rhythm for the season kind of game.
Yeah, I mean, especially the attempts from three, which is probably how you're going to have success here against Orlando if they do hang in this game. I mean, the Orlando Magic for me are quite befuddling. They're opening to the season after just blowing doors off the Heat. These last two games have just been like, what are you doing? But I was initially looking at Paolo maybe to eat in this game, but I'm not trusting anything that this young team is doing on a night-to-night basis. But yeah. But I do like the new Rodman, Jeremy Sohan, Silent H. Over 7.5 rebounds is even money at FanDuel or MGM, plus 100. After he goes for 17, 12, and 3 in 37 minutes against Houston. And I just think the minutes are what we rely on. I mean, I felt like a fish taking Keldon Johnson last week because I was like, damn, this guy's not going to play over Sohan, like, who is just so much more a part of the Spurs' future plans. Then, of course, Keldon Johnson turns around and has a great game against the Houston Rockets. But that's besides the point. The point is Sohan ran his mouth off a little bit about these Rockets and came out and played well in just what's kind of a slobber knocker game, right? I mean, that's kind of what we expect again. Like, Houston's offense is not great. This total is on the move down a little bit, 220 to 219. There should be plenty of rebound chances. Houston so far has allowed double-digit rebound chances to just about every wing they've played, right? I mean, like, 4 guys on the Hornets had double-digit chances. It's part of the reason Charlotte for a minute had the best offensive rebounding rate in the league, is because they played Houston and came back against them. And so that's bizarre. The Grizzlies as well, guys like John Conchar getting in there. And I mean, Sohan is a great rebounder. He does have 8 boards in consecutive games against Houston. Last year, he has 2+ offensive rebounds and now 4 straight against Houston. Wemby is, getting kind of bodied, which is what we thought might happen when he first came into the league. It's like, he's a dude you can push out. We saw Jabari Smith play a lot more than Şengün down the stretch and him do a much better job physically on Wembanyama. So that just kind of clears things out for Sohan to be the guy ending these possessions. And I mean, that's what he's really out there to do. He's embraced that Rodman look and that personality of just saying, like, I'm out here to eat glass.
Yeah, I think that's going to help him a lot. Points Sohan, the era of awful is over, and he's just going to be used as a sort of hectic, just create chaos kind of player that is best in those situations and in the open floor and in space with his athleticism and size and skill alongside it, just not point guard skill. I'm going to go with Chris Paul, stick in this game for my last pick here, Nate, and take him under 21.5 PRA. And I think we're both seeing the same thing here. I know you spoke about it a little bit in terms of Sohan and in the best bets video where you talk about the Rockets mostly and how they figured out Chris Paul by the second half. There was a lot more Dillon Brooks on CP3 in half number 2 of last game. He went from 7 assists in the first half to 2 in the second. So I'm going to continue to kind of ride that momentum that, although he had a monster first half distributing the ball, everything kind of got figured out. Tired legs prevail. You've got the youth and athleticism of guys on the Rockets and the ability to throw like 3 to 4 different really, really good athletes at him, right? As long as you keep Fred VanVleet off of him, you're probably going to have a pretty good matchup against CP3. And I don't like the fact that in one game later, his numbers are all the same, right? It almost just feels like they're like not willing to go up because there was a little bit of fool's gold there with CP3's success in the last one. But as far as the points go too, he's only taken 9 shots in the first 2 games so far, played 29 minutes with Trey Jones in the lineup. played 27 minutes without him in the second game. So I don't think there's this like big increase in minutes for him just because one guy's out. They have plenty of other guys, including Stefan Castle, that they want to give looks to at times at that guard position as well. So like there's other dudes to get minutes, and not CP3's not going up to 34, 35 minutes just because his backup point guard isn't playing. So I want to make that clear. The rebound chances as well. He had 12 rebound chances in game one, which was wild. And Wemby was getting pushed around a bit in that one as well. But I do still think that that Wemby's going to be a little bit better at rebounding in this one. I do think he's going to find a way to continue to have success against Houston like he did last year, being a little bit more slithery around Şengün, who's got a much lower center of gravity, obviously. But also the 9 assists in game two. Once again, the 7 dimes that they had in the first one, that team was asleep. The Rockets were not even paying attention at all. I love this spot for them to win the game, to the point that you made in the best bets. And I think a big part of that comes from limiting the head of the snake, which is clearly Chris Paul. They limited point guards to the fewest assists per game last year. They were number 2 in limiting assists overall in the league last year. So I don't think the Spurs are going to have a lot of open court, drive and kick open shots. I think this is going to be a really good defensive effort from Houston.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great fade because, like, what is he going to get in terms of points and rebounds? 3 shots last game, 0 rebounds. Like, the ball has to literally fall to his feet for him to get the board. He could get benched for his defense at points if Houston starts to figure things out. Like, I mean, the Spurs' identity could just be like, we got athletes everywhere. Like, let's play Stefan Castle and just, like, try to create chaos and keep this game low scoring. I mean, yeah, if the CP3 pick and roll isn't really working, which like we both saw, yeah, it just ground to a halt in that fourth quarter and was kind of a disaster, almost leading to the comeback win for the Rockets. So yeah, I think they continue to push those advantages with the old man here.
With the old man, yeah, no offense, Chris, we love you, but it's Father Time's undefeated. So that's all the time we have for you in this one. Continue to follow along. Also have best bets up in a separate episode and bringing both of these to you each and every weekday moving forward. So until we see you next, happy betting.